Well, it took playoffs for me to finally hit my stride in the pick game. I mean, JB, look, I'm sorry I embarrassed you so much in the ECAC picks. Let's take a look at how that went this weekend.
I'll say the Mustangs win this one 45-28.
Here, I agree with you. Morrisville wins this game 45-21. Let me give W&J the upset here, or what I would call the upset at least, by the score of 34-30.
I'll take the Bombers in a lower scoring affair. Let's say 27-20.
I'm going to pick the Tornadoes to whirl through the Tartans' defense early on here by the score of 27-25.
Yeah, why not? Let's go with the Tornadoes to sneak by the Tartans. Let's say 24-21, just like the Case Western game. But I'll take the Engineers in this one. Let's say 32-28.
Here, that I have to go with Grove City here. Tesla's like 49-39 in favor of Grove City. Okay, 3-1 versus 1-3. I think that speaks for itself, JB. So let's get going here.
Hold it there, Frank. You kind of conveniently left out the fact that you picked a game, you picked a team to win a game in another bowl, and they lost by 64 points. That might be one of the worst picks in the history of our show. Just saying.
You mean this? I am not a believer in the Centennial Conference this year. I think it's actually an indication that Susquehanna did what they did, that it may be actually a somewhat down year for this conference. And as such, I'm going to say that Wilkes wins this game 31-27 is my score for that one.
Something like that, yeah.
Why couldn't you just, let me start the show feeling good? You go into the intro slides where I'm, presiding over your wedding and everything. I mean, what kind of friend are you, JB? I mean, seriously, I just don't get it. Why would you do that to me? I mean, I did gain one game on you this weekend at least, so now I'm down 4 and. Yeah, just one. There are 7 playoff games left. Is that no? Actually, let's see, 8, 4, 2, 1. So there's 15 playoff games left if we go predict the rest of them. So I still have a chance.
Okay.
A snowball's chance in hell. But anyway, let's start this because we got some playoff games and bowl games to talk about in what we're calling Week 12 of In the Huddle. Okay, JB. I can't believe you did that still to me. Whatever. For those wondering how this week's going to run for us, we have today's show, which is being released on a Monday. Hey! We're recording Sunday night, in case you couldn't tell by the darkness in each of our rooms. We are not vampires, just so you know. Yeah, JB, this is past your bedtime, so we're going to hurry this one along. Yeah, and Wednesday, we're going to have a very special show. We're not going to even tell you who our guest is and what we have planned, except for we will be doing our Tales of the Tape, which you all love, the previews of the playoff games. We'll talk briefly about who's left in this. Is that your boxing pose? This is why it was football for you, not boxing in college, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
And none of the above for me. I saw the photo, which is in our intro, of me wearing the helmet with the chin strap still done up around my eyes, basically, and I realized why I didn't play football today. Our guest on Wednesday actually said to us, with that photo, our schools will actually take us out of the alumni, materials for donations, etc. They might. But he's got a good sense of humor, and you'll see more of that on Wednesday, hopefully, as long as it occurs the way we think it will. Week 12, playoffs, week 1, whatever you want to call it, in the books. Here's your 30-second view, because I think you're tired enough to make it only 30 seconds tonight, as to what it all means. Go ahead.
Well, I think the main thing that stood out to us, Frank, was how strong the Centennial Conference looked in this first round of postseason games. That and the PAC, both of those conferences kind of overperformed based on what we thought might go down. But as far as the playoffs, I think the games kind of went the way we thought they would. Union took a little while to get things going. I was a little nervous for you there during the Bracket Blitzer show. You kept it professional, but I imagine you were probably in the back of your mind going, "Come on, guys, let's get things going here." 21-3. The upset alert was tagged on that one early on, but otherwise, I think, that we'll talk about that. We might talk about that in the Wednesday show. I think Susquehanna was trying to send a message to the NCAAs for leaving them out of the field of 32. They did have a close loss to Muhlenberg, which won 38-0 over MIT in round 1, and will now host Brockport in round 2. Yeah, 88 points. That was exactly.
I can't even rip it out correctly. I couldn't even get the score and the rip out of this. It's still haunting me, the damn sheet. Are you kidding me? Okay, well, yeah. I guess I'll be eating my words. I think the Riverhawks are trying to say something there. That's a little above and beyond. But hey, I mean, it is what it is. In the bright side, Brevard appreciated our picks. They tweeted and Facebooked us. Yeah, so
it was the only ECAC bowl game I got right, so thankfully we threw that one in there, even though technically it was the South Region Bowl. But hey, we appreciate the Tornadoes, and third year in. I thought you were going
Carnegie Mellon on that one, to be honest. I really thought you were going to go Carnegie Mellon. I watched the playback that they put up there, too, and I was like, boy, he's going to go that way. I know he's going to. Okay, maybe he's not. Anyway.
Let's change it up.
Let's talk about all these games. We'll start with the bowl games and then work our way up to a crescendo of the playoff games from the NCAA. Yeah. So, JB, you know what time it is? It is, well, I see we can't call playoffs week 1 technically because of all these bowl games. That's actually one reason why we do call week 12. Now that I'm remembering why the nomenclature exists the way it does. There's one of those big words. Yeah. 6 minutes into the show, why don't we go here? We are doing crunch time for week 12. Let's start with the New England Bowls. And we're going to start with actually Western Connecticut at WPI. I might have kind of missed on the WPI defense's prowess in this game when I predicted, but I still get credit for the game. Yeah, just a little bit. They win the game 35-6. Let's look at some clips, and actually it's going to be all the same guy, Connor Field, with the hat trick. First, the only score in the first half was WPI's Connor Field 3-yard touchdown run at 9:23 left in the second quarter, make it 7-0. Then fast forward to the third quarter, and hey, there's Connor Field one more time. 12:22 left, and he made it 14-0 with his 1-yard run. And then in the fourth quarter, 13:30 left, he gets his hat trick with a 6-yard TD run, and he'll help make this score 35-6. The 10th win for WPI is the first time in 130 seasons. Congratulations, he said. And Sean McAllen The Thunder Lightning combination that they really posed there, had his own touchdown and 164 yards of rushing for him. He breaks the rushing record at 3,878 yards and named game MVP, even though Connor Field had the hat trick. Go figure that one out. That tells you just how good they really are, both of them. Congratulations, WPI. And Endicott. Let's look at the first touchdown of many against Dean here. And this was a long one by Endicott. Shane McManaway from Joe Koloski, 54 yards. 7-0, that made it, but the final score, 52-10. We kind of saw this coming against 4-5 Dean at that time. 45 unanswered points after trailing 10-0, or 10-7, excuse me. So Endicott at least, had some pressure on them early on, but it was, finally wake up and smell the coffee time for Endicott for the rest of the game. 275 passing yards, 6 total touchdowns for Joe Koloski. Let's go to the MAC Centennial Bowls. No video here. I probably just assume forget half these things happen, but Susquehanna, in case you didn't see it earlier in pieces here, they beat Wilkes 88-24. A team that we thought was going to be really ready for this game. Wilkes, not so much. 555-380 was the yardage. Avian Ellington from Susquehanna with over 200 yards rushing. I can't read the last digit because I ripped it. And 175.
He had 20 rushes for
20 rushes.
Yards and six touchdowns.
That's what that is. Okay, you know what?
He scored a touchdown basically every 4 or 5 times he touched the ball.
I'm just going to chew on that for the rest of crunch time because it's not crunch anymore. I'll tell you that. Johns Hopkins, 51. Stevenson, 28. The semifinalist of 2018 comes through with the bowl win. David Tamaro with the 22 for 33 days, 282 yards, 3 touchdowns. And the Hop defense, as you call it, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, and 2 interceptions. Am I really going to be able to do this for the rest of this? F&M, 31. Misericordia, 13. As F&M outgained Misericordia 455-202, 35-plus minute time of possession advantage. And the Diplomats, the kids these days call them the Diplos. The Diplos because of the DJ, I think. But we'll call them the Dips.
Okay, all right.
4 sacks, 6 for loss. Yep, and Brady Williams, the magician, unfortunately not enough magic there. 175 passing, 2 touchdowns. Let's go to the ECAC Bowls. We have 2 sets of videos for you on this one. First, we have RPI at Grove City. Let's look at the end of this game because this was a back-and-forth affair, but Grove City had a big lead. I think it was 17 points at one point, but RPI had taken the lead. Yeah. And next thing you know, it's with 57 seconds left, this pass play. Let's listen to it actually from Grove City.
East takes the snap, gonna throw. Looks for Gustafson, gonna fire the ball downfield.
Got it.
Gustafson, he made the catch, he took it away, and he took it into the end zone for a Wolverine touchdown. He just took the ball away from the defensive back and ran into the end zone.
Cody Gustafson from Josh East, the 28-yard pass, made it 41-38. But RPI gets the field goal range. Sanjay Krishna is, automatic from, 25 yards, right?
The kick is up, and it is no good. It's no good. He missed it, and the Wolverines win it.
It looked like it was good from here, so you and I both were kind of, but then,
Can't believe that. 41-38, the final. Grove City wins its 2nd straight Lina Bowl in the ECAC. Gustafson with the touchdown and 239 receiving yards. I believe he was the MVP of that game. And the rest of the story there. Then let's look at Washington and Jefferson at Ithaca. And Will Gladney in the first quarter gets the first touchdown for Ithaca to make it 10-0 with this 59-yard pass from Joe Germinario. They look like they were just rolling Ithaca, but things started to get a little interesting in the second half. Finally, with 6:43 left, Germinario makes a mistake here. And Mr. Nunali gets the 50-yard interception return to make it 20-17. But again, the Liberty League team in this game had the chance to win it at the end or tie it, actually. They choose not to go for the tie in 4th and goal from inside the 10. Here's the play, and you can see an odd play choice to actually pitch the ball backward. That's back about a yard. They could have still thrown it from that position, but instead tried to run it in from there. and they get 3 yards short. You can't see in the video, but they were 3 yards short, and that is it. Ithaca goes down to Washington and Jefferson 20-17. And then we also have Brevard, we just talked about, over Carnegie Mellon 42-28, as Brevard outgained Carnegie Mellon 390-193. Aaron Bennett with 9 rushes, 136 yards, and 1 touchdown. Stephon Kennedy with 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. And Westminster poses a surprise in my book, 35-24 over Morrisville State. A team that was up for this game. We know that from the reaction video. But Westminster's defense forces 4 turnovers, including 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions in the game. In the New York Bowl, Hobart. Well, let's look at their first touchdown in the game also. Mike Giacobbe with the 5-yard pass from Ryan Hoffman. Well, in case you don't think he made it in or kept possession of the ball, remember, you can have possession in one hand, and here's a good photo of it. Indeed, he does have it. Still photos don't tell you whether he kept it or not, but you can see it's firmly in the grasp of his hand, and it's pretty clear to me that he did indeed have that touchdown. Both referees confirmed it in and around the end zone. That made it 10-0. They end up winning 30-10 over Cortland State. And the note you have here is Hobart went 3-0 versus the top 3 Empire 8 teams this season. How many seniors in Hobart this year graduating?
12.
They're going to have a hell of a 2020 season. Pencil them in as your favorite, possibly, even with Union returning certain players, I would say.
We'll see.
Okay, they want to reach next year, the NCAAs. That's what these teams had already done this year. Let's talk about the Salisbury bracket first. And Salisbury, wow. Halftime was 63-0, if I remember correctly. And it got worse. It was 83-0. Salisbury over SUNY Maritime, I believe, is the worst ever drubbing in an NCAA playoff game in recent history, at the very least. Congratulations, Salisbury, but you cannot carry over points to the Union game. Just want to let you know that.
No.
Yeah, it was 1 point. Well, actually, 1 point away from tying this playoff scoring record, but the biggest shutout ever. You do have that note there. And Salisbury outgained SUNY 583-71. 11 rushing and 1 punt return touchdown. So
punt return. Yep.
Got it. Union. Wow. We've got plenty of clips to look at here from the Union game. Let's start with the final touchdown scored by Case Western Reserve in the second quarter with 22 seconds left. It's Donald Day with a 3-yard run, and a 10-play drive made it 21-3 at halftime. Will Bellamy finally comes alive and gets in sync with his receivers. 5:20 left. Here's the first touchdown.
Now he's looking for Beal in the end zone. Touchdown, Griffin Beal. A 17-yard touchdown strike.
Andrew Santillo and company on the call there. It's Griffin Beal, 17-yard pass, make it 21-10. Then, with 10:35 left in the fourth quarter, here's a deja vu all over again. Take it, Santillo.
Pressure's coming. They looking for Beal. Touchdown, Griffin Beal. For the second time this afternoon, Bellamy finds Beal.
21-16 now. After that 16-yard pass play, in the two-point conversion had failed. But, Case Western Reserve gets within, the red zone area one more time, or just near it, actually. And here's a blocked field goal by Union College's DJ Martin. That is huge. Also huge was earlier in the second half, the quarterback for Case Western Reserve was knocked out a little bit. He was back in the game later on.
Saxon, yeah.
Yep, Saxon was knocked out and came back in, but it definitely changed his ability to play in that game. But later on in the fourth quarter, 2:32 left, Andre Ross Jr. finally makes a showing on the scoring sheet.
They fake the handoff. Bellamy looking for Ross Jr. Touchdown! Union College! Bellamy finally connects with Ross Jr.
24-21 at that point, but hold on. Still a chance for Case Western Reserve. They get near midfield with time running out. They needed a field goal. 17 seconds left.
The game.
Here we go.
4th and 12 from the 37. Saxton trying to put something on it. It's intercepted! Intercepted by Joe Vanderhuff. And that'll do it. Union's going to win this game.
Joe Vanderhoof with that interception and securing the 18-point comeback, 21 unanswered points by Union to make it 24-21 in one of the most exciting games of the day, at least on the right side of the bracket, I will say. 24-21. And the accolades there are Will Bellamy with 235 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Union's defense with 2 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. We said coming in we thought that Union had the better defense, and lo and behold, it proves itself in the second half. First half, not so much, but that was where the game was going to be won or lost, we thought. Ultimately, they won it with that big hit on Saxton. Take me through your thoughts on that game before we continue.
Well, I mean, I think what it boiled down to, Frank, was the fact that, Irabor was kind of being shut down in the first half. The Union defense was on their heels a little bit, and Bellamy just couldn't quite get in rhythm with his receivers. Going to halftime, Coach Behrman and company made the adjustments. They really started leaning on Beal a lot more as a possession receiver, and that kind of got the offense going a little more. And, just got to credit William there. Just got the win, 3 touchdowns in the second half, and defense came up with some key stops with the blocked field goal and then, the interception at the end of the game to hang on. So they have a tall order going up against Salisbury next weekend. We'll get into that a little later this week, but big win for Union. Would have been tough for them to come out and lose that one, I think, but credit Case Western Reserve. They had a good game plan. It worked for the first half. Second half kind of went the Dutchman's way.
Let's go on now to the bottom half of the Salisbury bracket. First, Brockport, 33, Western New England, 28. Let's take a look at 3 touchdowns in particular. First, Brockport, which was down 14-7, or actually was a 14-6 early on, I think it was. Western New England started pouring it on, but Brockport caught fire in the second half. Here's a touchdown, a 53-yard run by Jaleh Code to make it 26-14 with 14:20 left in the fourth quarter. But again, Western New England was never say die in this game. Adam Raza from Brendan Smith. Now, we understand in retrospect, Al Coleman, who did get a little knocked around in the first half, he actually had gotten injured from, remember that receiving touchdown we talked about last week? That actually caused an injury when he got hit late in that play and was nursing a shoulder injury of sorts. We didn't realize it at the time, but he tried to go in this game. He did come back a couple of times that we saw when we featured in this game. But here's the play. Raza from Brendan Smith, 19-yard touchdown pass to make it 26-21, 9:50 left. There was still a chance here for Western New England. But again, another long drive by Brockport like they did against Alfred earlier in the season in scoring on it. It was the huge part. This time it wasn't a field goal. It was a touchdown because Freddie June had the 22-yard run after the 8-play, 5-minute and 12-second drive to make it 33-21. Eventually, Western New England would score one more time, but it was too little too late. The final was 33-28 Brockport. There was definitely a scare in this game and definitely some questions about Brockport's quarterback situation. But at the end of the day, Brockport pulls it out against the home team. They're going to be on the road again against Muhlenberg, who beat MIT in kind of a listless game, 38-0. It was 14-0 for a while, though, in that first half. And we thought MIT might have the ability to at least make it a one-possession game. Never were able to get on the board, though. They outgained MIT to Muhlenberg 400-95. Michael Nekowski with 3 touchdowns. But, preview your thoughts here. Brockport struggles. Muhlenberg doesn't. Do they have a chance in that game? Here's just a preview question for Wednesday.
Well, I don't know if I would say that Muhlenberg didn't struggle because it was, like you said, 14-0. They were, they're coming to this game, the number 4 ranked team in the country against MIT, which had to kind of come back and scrape back to even get in the tournament in the first place. But really, the second half, the Mules started to pull away. Their defense asserted itself. In Brockport, Western New England's a good football team. They're probably the best football team in New England. They have a couple of great receivers in Fedorchuk and Raja, who made some plays. The quarterback situation, I thought Smith acquitted himself well in relief of Coleman. And so at the end of the day, pretty evenly matched. Brockport, though, is still kind of one-dimensional, running game primarily, although June did have some nice passes, and we saw guys like Ortiz make some plays, things like that. So, I think, Brockport stuck with its game plan. It worked for them. Their defense, I think, struggled a little more than they thought, but that could have been, they might have underestimated Western New England to a certain extent, or at least, Western New England had better athletes than maybe we gave them credit for going into that one. So great game between both teams. At the end of the day, the rushing attack of Brockport sort of hung in there, and that was the difference.
Let's go to the Mount Union bracket. We're going to start the bottom half, obviously, of that bracket because the top two games weren't East Region-based games. Framingham State at Wesley was number one. How do you start a game? Well, if you're Wesley, here's how, according to Sean Green.
Pack collects at the 17, near side 20, 25-30, 35-40, Pack center to the field, he's gone! 50, 40, 30, no flags, 20, 10, 5, touchdown Wesley! 84 yards, Wesley leads 6-0.
Well, there's one way, 84-yard kickoff return by Marcellus Pack, 7-0 start right there. Let's look at another touchdown. This one, a pass from freshman Drew Fry.
Pass, good pocket, throwing deep over the middle, looking for Ron Peel. He's got it in stride. Touchdown, Wesley. 38 yards. It's 13-0 Wolverine.
38-yard pass there from Fry made it 14-0. Just 3 minutes and 18 seconds into the game. 6 minutes later, Drew Fry said, "Let me do it again."
A lot of quarterbacks at this level. Two wide receivers to the left, Creedle right. Drew Fry in the shotgun. Fry, read option, throwing across the middle and into the hands of Mike Creedle. Touchdown, Wesley. The inside slant, and the Wolverines lead 20-0.
This time to Mike Creedle for the 20-0 lead. It was in the end 58-21 Wesley. Drew Fry, 24 for 28. He was 12 for 12, I think, at one point you had said. 345 yards,
more
5
like
touchdowns.
19 for 19 at some point. He had one of the best debuts of any D3 player that I think I've ever seen. I literally think his first incompletion came when he was around 18 or 19 passes thrown. He was unbelievable in that game and has totally transformed the Wolverines. They are a much more dangerous team now, I think, going forward than I even thought they would be. I was just blown away by how strong of a quarterback it's a totally different team now, Wesley, and I think actually they're probably pretty big favorites against Del Val coming up this weekend.
Let me just tell you, they were unranked in my final regular season ballot, and I would rank them now easily after seeing that performance with the conversion of quarterback. Jake Knapp, the nephew of Chip Knapp, was on the boards pretty hard, selling us on Drew Fry and how good he's going to be or would be. Oh, Jake, you're right, buddy.
He's right.
And let's go to the Del Val Bridgewater game. At Bridgewater, this was a back and forth affair. And just how back and forth was it? Let's show you the first quarter. 8:30 left in the first quarter. Here's Josh Davis with a 13-yard pass from Anthony Fontana for Del Val to make it 7-0. But 12 seconds later, well, they apparently saw Marcellus Pack do it and Wesley, so Bridgewater said, "We're going to return one to the house." Gerard Denman, an 87-yard kickoff return, makes it 7-7. Let's fast forward. Bridgewater had a lead, I think a 9-point lead at one point, and it got chipped away at, and eventually Del Val surpasses them. And lo and behold, they at 23-19, with a chance still for Bridgewater to come back in this game, Vincent DeLeo, a 16-yard scoop and score for Delaware Valley, makes it 30-19. That is not your final. Bridgewater did get a field goal to get within one possession, but couldn't get the onside kick. 30-22 was the final score. 4 sacks for Delaware Valley, 6 tackles for loss in the interception. We just talked about the Vincent DeLeo fumble recovery for touchdown. And Anthony Fontana, I can't speak enough good things about him overall. 218 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but forgivable as he got that team back in the game. JB, that is crunch time for Week 12. I'm still tasting Susquehanna right now for some reason, but that is crunch time for Week 12. I don't want to be gross at this point, so I'm just going to keep going with it. But paper does not disappear easily with saliva. Just going to tell you. No.
Doesn't really work that well for you, Frank.
Yeah, I got to be careful. I'm in a high fiber diet right now, so we may have to end this show soon. JB, you're not going to like what I have to do to you for this intro, but after you brought up my pathetic performance in predictions on Friday, or at least the one pathetic performance, here's our intro to your next segment.
JB Stat Chat. He's gonna chat about stats.
Hope you didn't mind the use of those X's and everything during the JB Stat Chat theme. Just saying.
Yeah, I kind of had a rough one, but hey, still hanging on to the top of the leaderboard. But yeah, not one of my better showings. As I said at the top of the show, underestimated a few teams, a few conferences, but got most of the playoff games right. So I guess that's good, right?
Hit your Stat Chat, buddy.
Okay, so a lot of this we've already kind of covered, so I won't spend a ton of time here. I guess a couple things that jump out. Once again, kind of a shout out to Sean McAllen on a great career at WPI, almost 4,000 yards rushing. We had a couple of players with 6 touchdowns, including Kowalski as well as Ellington from Susquehanna. They scored a lot of points. So did Salisbury. Salisbury's defense also pitched a kind of a historic shutout of sorts, and Muhlenberg also shut out MIT. We got a nice shout out from the Tornadoes there in North Carolina. So 4 sacks, 5 tackle for a loss performance by Stefan Kennedy was pretty impressive. But
Tornadoes, this was your official symbol for that,
Yeah, Corey Williams and Mike Brewer from Wesley with a couple of really long pick sixes in that one. Vincent DeLeo with a 16-yard scoop and score, which was pretty huge in that game against Bridgewater, because the timing was basically right near the last 5 minutes or so of the fourth quarter with the game still in doubt. That kind of pushed Del Val over the top and basically won them the game, which had been a back and forth affair for a while. You mentioned Mac had the 84-yard kick return for touchdown, but how about Hobart freshman Rayshon Boswell? For the second week in a row, he's running back kickoffs for over 95 yards. I think he leads the nation in kickoff returns at this point with a couple touchdowns. Pretty impressive outing for this young man. And he's one of these, several underclassmen that Hobart will be bringing back to hopefully defend that New York Bowl or something else in 2020. We'll see. But lots of great performances across the board. And since I guess the one thing I probably should have added here, Frank, was, the WPI defense and special teams. They allowed 0 rushing yards to Western Connecticut. Had 4 takeaways, 19 quarterback hits. Rough day for David James and company, and blocked 2 kicks. So real impressive defensive performance there. Should have added them to this slide, but I did
credit
get it
to
on
Matt Noonan. Credit to Matt Noonan on calling me out for this. You know what, Matt? You're right. You win. One other thing.
Yeah,
we've done it 2 weeks in a row, so let's get it right at this point because he deserves it. I believe it's Marcellus Pack from Wesley.
Pack.
Yep, not Mac. Yep. Though, if you
can,
Marlon
Mac down here in Florida.
well, I'm thinking maybe he wants to be like Chicago's Mac, but he's probably a little bit smaller than him and not as good at defense ultimately. That said, let's look at the 8 remaining playoff games coming up, the round of 16 for Saturday. We have some really good games in the lineup here. We'll start in the Salisbury bracket, obviously. Number 13 Union at number 6 Salisbury. I should be attending that game, weather permitting. That's the plan right now. So you know how it works. We'll probably have a little pregame something or other on Twitter, or otherwise we'll announce it later in the week what our plan is. During the game, we'll be tweeting out videos, and we'll have some post-game reaction, obviously, no matter who wins in that game, because we do have 2 East Region teams going at it there. Then also on the bottom side of that bracket, we have the Brockport-Muhlenberg game. Brockport unranked, number 4, Muhlenberg. This may be actually one of the 2 worst imbalanced games remaining, but it's Brockport versus Muhlenberg. That should tell you what kind of playoffs we have left here at the end of the day. Unranked Brockport at number 4, Muhlenberg. But as you said, Brockport's got a shot here. If Muhlenberg kind of plays a semi-listless game in the first half, unless Brockport maybe get a touchdown or 2. Brockport's got a better offense, we think, than MIT does right now. So they probably have a chance to score early. We'll see what happens in that game. In the lower bracket on the right side, it's Mount Union. Number 5, North Central, coming into number 1, Mount Union. I mean, North Central didn't look tremendous to me against Wabash at times, but in the end, they did handle them pretty well. Mount Union, they were Mount Union. Against Hanover, Hanover got a couple scores on them, but not when it mattered, ultimately. Well, maybe Hanover made it 14-7, I think, at one point, or 21-7, but Mount Union responded right away. So don't expect miracles in this game is what I'm saying, but we'll see what happens. North Central is a team that took them to the wire a few years back, and Kevin Burke had to run in, I believe, the 2-point conversion to win that game in the snowy field on Mount Union in Alliance, Ohio that time. So not necessarily the same teams here, obviously, but just remember, North Central plays with a lot of pride out there when they play in Alliance. And then on the bottom side, rematch, number 9 Del Val, number 10 Wesley. Technically, the score would tell you in that first game that should be number 9 Wesley, number 10 Del Val. But Wesley wins it in 4 overtimes, but is now lesser ranked. Maybe thanks to the points I'm not giving them, or at least didn't give them in the last poll, I guess.
Go figure.
Yep, sorry guys. But there's the matchup. With Drew Fry, it's probably a game changer of sorts. But Anthony Fontana, to me, is a better quarterback now than he was when they played the first time. Does that balance? True. I don't know. I don't think it does, but I would give Wesley the advantage right now, but not by too much. Probably not a 40-point game type thing or 35-point game like we saw in the Framingham State situation. Left side, we'll go through quickly here, right, because no East Region teams at stake. But what I call the most lopsided game remaining, though Huntington pulled the upset against Berry on Saturday, it's Huntington at number 2, Mary Hardin Baylor. Tough game, no doubt, for Huntington. But Mary Hardin Baylor only had 250 yards of offense against, I think, 236 for Redlands. Their offense wasn't the star of that game, even though Jace Hammock had 3 touchdowns. It was the defense in that game. And so we'll see if the offense can step up and maybe get more of a Mary Hardin Baylor like 400 yards of offense instead of 250. That's going to be very necessary as they continue in the playoff run that they're trying to put together. On the lower side of the bracket, challenging game. Number 22, Wartburg versus the freshmen of Whitewater, doing their best Wesley impression or vice versa, perhaps. Number 7, Whitewater hosting Wartburg. Wartburg handled Hope pretty easily, and Whitewater had their own pretty easy go of it on Saturday. And so with that, I'm not sure what to expect in this game besides the fact that Whitewater is the better ranked team. Then we'll just round it out before I ask you your thoughts on the left side of the bracket. On the lower side, it is Wheaton, number 3 in the nation, hosting number 24 Central, who survived overtime, a 2-point conversion that was not made by Oshkosh after coming back from a 21-point deficit Central had to and scoring first in overtime. Give kudos to Oshkosh. I would have won for 2 there on the road without momentum at that point. You got to do something to try to get out of there with that win, I think, at that point. They tried, couldn't get the completion. Central wins it. And now they have to face number 3 in the nation. And on the bottom side, St. John survives Don Beebe and Aurora. And Chapman survives Linfield in triple overtime, one of the highest scoring, combined scoring playoff games in history.
65 or something like that?
Yep, something like that. Incredible game there by Chapman and the walk-off in triple overtime. It is at Chapman, a rare day these days when a second-round game is going to be played on the West Coast, but it's happening. You would think it would be Linfield hosting it. It's not. It's Chapman. And St. John's will have to travel to there. So the lower-ranked team, or the worst-ranked team, is hosting because the D3Football.com rankings don't matter. So, okay, left side of the bracket, what do you think? Or I guess it's left side of the bracket, what do you think about those teams that we have lined up there. We've talked enough about the East.
Well, I think from what I remember watching on some of the Bracket Blitz show on D3Football.com is Wheaton looked real good. They have a complement of both a strong running attack. They can pass. Their defense was strong. I still think that they're probably they might actually be the best team on that side of the bracket because there's something's going on with Mary Hardin-Baylor that's just been a little bit off all season.
They rolled over Redlands, though, really, when you get down to it. But again, the offense wasn't the cause of it.
Yeah, the defense is championship quality for sure. But something's going on with that offense, and I'm not quite, I think I have some opinions about it. But, at the end of the day, they're getting the job done. It doesn't look like a championship caliber offensive team. Maybe they're the D3 version of the 2000 Baltimore Ravens where – you just have a quarterback that's limited and they can run the ball a little bit. But honestly, the defense is so strong, it almost doesn't matter who's playing offense because they're just going to be able to shut teams down, and they're not going to probably see anyone. We thought
that 2 years ago, JB. We really did. That defense was going to be able to carry them that year with Fanene and company. And in the end, Carl Robinson III and his offense couldn't put it together. TJ Josie was injured. We know that.
That's true, yeah.
In the Stag Bowl, it finally bit them. They got all the way to the Stag Bowl in that situation, but
they may not this year because the way Wheaton's looking. I mean, even Whitewater with the weird sort of loss to Oshkosh at the end of the season. There's a lot of still some tough teams on that left side, and I don't think the Crew going back to the Stag Bowl is guaranteed.
Not at all. Their third and fourth round games, the quarters and the semis, are going to be tough no matter who gets through now. Chapman can put up points against Linfield the way they did yesterday. That's incredible to me.
Surprising.
Wheaton, you just talked about it. St. John's took him to the mat just about last year in the quarterfinal game, and finally Mary Hardin-Baylor wins that one. Whitewater, same issues.
I have to give Chapman some extra props because when I lived in California for about 13 years, I did go see some SCIAC games in person. And to be honest, they looked sort of comparable to some of the New England teams. Maybe Cal-Lu and the Redlands game looked a little bit like a Union Hobart. There certainly wasn't a top echelon type of feel to those programs, but clearly something's going on these days. It's been 10 years since I last watched a game in person out there. So obviously they've done a great job building these programs up, and now Chapman, hey, they're taking care of Linfield. That's a legit win right there.
Well said. I need to go find a garbage can. That said, we will be back on Wednesday, hopefully making some good information available to you and getting you some entertainment in
while you take care of this paper thing. We should at least say, and you sent a tweet out earlier today being Sunday, the amount of interaction we've had in the last week with fans, whatever you want to call it, people who have sons who play Division III football, the amount of interactions from the numbers, the sheer volume, plus the amount of actual time that people watched the programs that we put out was probably not a record. It's got to be way up there. I mean,
I think it's a record.
We certainly,
I can remember that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I know. Was it like 25,000 hours of viewing or
minutes,
something crazy like that?
Minutes. It's 25,000 minutes.
It probably feels like if these shows probably feel like a minute is an hour with the way that we can't shut up. But so my wife says I tend to embellish, so we'll just leave it at that. But yeah.
Really now?
Yeah.
I'm just going to say thanks. Thanks, folks, for watching.
Okay.
I'm going to save you right now. Be well. We'll see you Wednesday.